Hey guys, hope all is well. This is episode 36 of the Rugby Recap. You have myself, Rugby H, as well as the Kiwi lads. How are you, mates? How's that weekend?
Oh, it was fantastic, Tim. So much rugby, so many activities. I haven't slept in like 2 days,
It's expected.
but we got to see some good games of rugby, so I feel like slightly worth it. We'll be right. We can catch up on
Exactly.
sleep over the early stages of this week, getting ready for next weekend, which is pretty similar.
Yeah, I mean, what there'll be the LA Sevens, Super Rugby, and Six Nations. So yeah, it's pretty much going to be the exact
Or
same.
no Six
Uh,
Nations, but URC backup
oh,
involvement.
URC. Jeez. Oh yeah, because there's another break. I don't know why there's two breaks for Six Nations. It's crazy, but yeah, no, you are right. Wow. Yeah, URC back as well. Eesh, okay, yeah, there's a lot of rugby on, but of course we'll start off with the Six Nations results that we saw across the weekend, guys. Starting off with the first one, which was Ireland versus Wales, 31 points to 7. I think it was one of those games which was pretty convincing, to say the least. I think Wales had moments, I'd say, in the game where they looked pretty strong, but I think overall, just Ireland kind of cruised through it, and yeah, it just looked pretty good. What was your take on that game?
Yeah, see, Wales, they were a little bit unfortunate, I think, because I think that they played well enough to stop Ireland getting a bonus point. I think that last minute try for the Irish, of course, it secures the chance of the perfect grand slam of 25 points. But, I mean, Wales, this young side actually looks like they've got quite a bit of potential, which is
Yes.
a nice thing to say because like Wales maybe 12 or 24 months ago didn't look like they had that. Now that Warren Gatlin, I guess whatever he's doing is working because this team looks like they're going to be able to really challenge. I mean, saying they're going to challenge France is probably a bit of an insult because France aren't exactly playing well, but
Yeah.
I think it will
Yeah.
be a really competitive game. And I think that Wales, that was probably a performance that even though they only got the 7 points, was probably one of their better performances of the Six Nations as a whole. I would say, in terms of their defence, shutting down an Irish team that have scored many, many tries over the last 20 matches or so. They've only lost the one game, of course, in the
Yeah.
quarters. But yeah, I think it was overall an impressive performance from the underdogs. Ireland, they did what they needed to. They got their tries. They still managed to look very strong while doing so and getting to test a few new players along the way as well.
Yeah, I mean, like you also have to remember that with Wales, they don't have like their kind of best team available going into the Six Nations from the start because they didn't have the likes of Lake and Hooker. They didn't have the likes of Jack Morgan, who was brilliant throughout the kind of Rugby World Cup. So there's even more talent that Welsh can kind of bring towards that kind of promising side of theirs. So yeah, you're right. Like the team looks pretty good shape for the future, but just of course now it's just really more of a development stage, which is kind of expected for most teams, really, as it's the start of a new cycle. But of course, with Ireland, however, yeah, they've really just it's like their side is a bit like they have a lot of experience in their side. I'd say still, it's one of those like where I wouldn't say they have a young side anymore, but they have a few positions where they've brought in young players. Obviously being Joe McCarthy and Jack Crowley probably being the main two, which you can kind of think of. Dan Sheehan. You got who else am I forgetting? I guess Calvin Nash. They got on that right wing. They got like even like gosh, I'm going blank here. The 23, no, the 15. I mean, I forgot his name.
Oh,
Hugo Keane. Hugo Keane.
oh,
So he's still like he's still kind of young in the way. So they have some young players in there, but again, obviously, it comes down towards the experience which they have, and that's kind of what allows Ireland to kind of just cruise through these games and kind of just beat their opponents. But yeah, just again, they got another bonus point victory, so it just it continues their kind of streak at the moment. And the question ponders really if they can continue this for the rest of the Six Nations, because they would be the first team ever in Six Nations history to win a Grand Slam back to back, but also be the first team to win all of their games with a bonus point win. So, like, do you think that can be done?
I mean, I predicted the Grand Slam for them, but I think that the big question mark, of course, is their last two games up against the English, up against the Scottish. They're more than capable of doing it, but it's just whether or not it actually works out for them. Like, we know how many tries they can score. It's
Yeah.
whether or not something goes wrong in a game or something just isn't quite clicking, that would then cause them to only score maybe 3 tries or 2 tries rather than those 4. But I mean, they've got some pretty good chances of being able to do so. I should clarify, Tim, as well. I wasn't winking at you before. A random bug landed on my nose. So I was kind of going like that to try and get it off. But I feel like some people might be like, why is he winking at him while he's talking about fullbacks? But yeah, just thought I'd clarify.
Don't worry. We all know Hamish has like a thing for fullbacks. That's his favorite position. But
Interesting.
But look, we'll move on then towards the next game, which was Scotland versus England. Again, that was I mean, we both did say Scotland would win this, but like the way they did it was like just incredible, actually. And of course, there's only one man we can talk about in this performance, which is Dupont van der Merwe getting a hat trick of tries. He's literally just England's curse, really. At the end of the day, he just scores tries for fun against them now. But yeah, I'll just go to you first before I get into my kind of take on it. Like, what did you think of the game? Dupont van der Merwe, just everything that was kind of built around it.
Yeah, I think Scotland did very well. They managed to pull off that victory. They came in as favourites for that match. They've actually won about 4 out of the last 5 now, or something along those lines, up against the English. So, maybe they don't get enough credit in this rivalry that has kind of developed. I will say, though, should they have been able to get the bonus point? At the end of the day, they took a few opportunities at threes when it didn't make complete sense, I will say. Like, yes, in the end it worked out. They won by 9 points. So in some regards, they cut out the English bonus point. But you're chasing a Six Nations with a side that, like we've been talking about, are chasing a perfect 25.
Yeah.
If there's any chance of you taking the Six Nations title off them, not only do you have to rely on your opponent that you faced in that game to then beat them the next time, but you also need those extra points when they're available. So maybe there could have been just a little bit more drive in this Scottish side is the only complaint that I would have. But Dupont van der Merwe, 3 tries, looking very sharp while doing it. And overall, just a good, solid performance from Scotland after what happened up against France.
Yeah. No, I thought the whole game was pretty impressive. Again, like, if you look at like the possession stats of it, like Scotland actually had less possession than England the whole game. Like, but they were still able to produce that kind of performance. And I mean, the combination of Finn Russell and Dupont, just like they were just, oh gosh, that third try, I was like, oh my gosh, I was like, wow, they are just breaking England apart here. But again, England looked pretty good actually in the opening, like, just say 10 minutes of the game. Like, they got the early try in, and they looked like they actually had it in him. And I was like, wow, okay, this could be an England win here. But it's one of those where I just look back at it now, and it's like Scotland they had so many opportunities in this game. Now that's the thing. Like they could have even scored more, like you said. Like they could have gotten that bonus point if they really wanted to. But it's gonna be interesting because when I look at obviously just for round 5 and round 6 of this competition, like it's one of those where I'm trying to think like. Well, actually, no, this is round 4 and round 5. I mean, with Scotland, I mean, if you look at that kind of table, I just think that they still have a good chance in actually winning the Six Nations. But again, a lot has to happen for that to kind of take place, because it means that England have to beat Ireland next week, and Scotland would have to get that bonus point victory against Italy away, and that looks a lot more difficult now than it did before. Obviously, going into what we'll talk about their game today, but. That we just saw, but I don't know. It's a tough one because again, it would come down towards that last final round in round 5, and yeah, it's all to play for then. So that's really the only way Scotland have a chance. But I mean, that'd be awesome if England does do. I mean, kind of Scotland a service, but I don't know. It's obviously all hypothetical at the moment, but we'll have to just wait until the next few weeks and just see what happens. But again, we'll go off towards that kind of final game in the Six Nations, which was France versus Italy. And in a weird way, this is kind of the most shocking result, I'd say, out of all the bunch, because we kind of, we both predicted that Ireland and Scotland would win both those games. But I think you and me both did say France would kind of run away with this. And no, the Italians they shocked everyone. But again, yes, you also have to take into consideration that there was the red card to Jonathan Dante and all of that. But still, it was a pretty impressive performance by the Italians, and they even had the opportunity to win it through Garbisi. But of course, another time where I think it's the second time this week I've seen where the ball goes off the tee, similar towards Perifetta for the Blues against Vidindura, and he just didn't. At least this time he got to kick it. He did it in time, but it just hit the post unfortunately. But what was your take on that? Because I just thought there's a lot of controversial things around this game, but it feels like a missed opportunity for the Italians because this could have been a really big win for them.
Yeah, I think the thing that concerned me the most about that last kick was not so much the fact that it fell off the tee, but the fact that for a penalty, France decided they'd start charging it down because it fell off the tee.
Yeah.
But then there were so many people between Garbisi and the posts. There were water carriers, there were players. So, you got to feel bad for him that, yes, the ball fell off, but he also had so many things to look at other than just the normal post, if that makes sense. Like, normally you just have yourself, you have the ball, and then you got it in front of you. But, yeah, he was looking at someone carrying some Powerades out for the boys, keeping them refreshed. But, yeah, hitting the post. Mo Farner, he never wanted to actually run that down that wing. He was getting as close to the touchline as physically possible to make sure that he got pushed out. Because, it was a really strange way to finish what was probably one of Italy's best performances. Like, it's hard to call it the best performance from Italy attacking-wise because we did only see that one try.
Exactly,
but defensively, they just stopped France. Yes. And just out from their goal line, I was talking about it on the stream, like Italy were 5 meters out or 10 meters out from their own line, and they just looked like they didn't care. Like France were throwing 10 phases at them, Italy going, we'll just keep on defending. We'll stay on side. The discipline, I think, was something that really set them apart in this game. Yes, there was that red card at Dante, but you got to bend at the hip, mate. That is one of the rules that the TMO and everyone in the officiating has been trying to indicate. Was it harsh? Maybe a little bit. But by that stage, I think Italy had already taken the momentum anyway because France scored that early try. That's all they did. Yeah.
It's now I've actually just been really impressed by Italy because, again, under Kieran Crowley, obviously last year, they looked like a good side, but again, there were still a few missing pieces from what they were able to do from an attacking wise, but also defensively. They just weren't kind of as strong as what we're seeing now. So you got to give quite a credit towards Quadella just in terms of what he's been able to do so far in terms of that, kind of coaching position there. And they look like a good side. It just, again, it's similar towards Wales, where they have a really good 15. And I think they even, this is obviously this may be a hot take here, but I think Italy have a stronger 15. I mean, the whole 15 than I believe what Wales do. Again, individually wise, there's obviously better players in Wales. There's no doubt about that. But they have players which are just superb and all that. But when you look at the whole 15 in terms of the potential for the future, I actually think Italy at this point in time have a better squad. But again, that can soon change, obviously, when Wales have their players back and all that, and they just get the chemistry up, and obviously it'll just be an ease to them. But I just think I've been so impressed by the Italians so far. And again, they even have players of their own, which is kind of out at the moment. But they just look like a really good side, and there's a lot that they can do on that front. And I mean, Capuzzo it looks great. Obviously he was out for the first round, I believe, against the English, but he did pretty well against the Irish, and he's done well against the French. So yeah, it's good to see these players doing the players you expect to do well for the Italians to kind of step up in big occasions, and that's what they're doing. So it's overall, I just thought it was a good performance from them. Again, you have to also, yes, it also does feel like a loss, but at the same time, you get 2 points, which is a great thing because now if I go in towards the Six Nations table now, I believe they're drawing right now with Wales on 3 points each. But of course, they're still in sixth because of their points difference. But so it's going to be interesting to see what happens because I know that both these sides, Wales and Italy, play on the final round. And I believe Wales, who do they face next week? They face...
they've got France. So
France. So that's going to be an interesting one. Because, and the Italians play Scotland away. So at home, I mean. So that's a tough one for them as well. So, yeah, depending on those results, I mean, again, of course, Scotland and France will be going into those games favorites. But I don't know. Maybe if some way Italy were able to kind of hold, kind of keep that defense up against the Scottish, and I don't know if they were able to win it, that'd be amazing. But even if they lost it by a low margin, and then the French are able to kind of beat Wales by a bigger margin, then that would really set up for a good game for the final round between both those sides. So yeah, there's still a lot. There's some exciting matches that I'm looking forward to actually going into the final rounds. But yeah, again, I think we'll move away then from I guess the Six Nations now. We'll move then towards Super Rugby, which was the Super Rugby Pacific, which was done now for the first round. Some good games in there, really good games actually. I mean, starting off, we just have to talk about the Chiefs and Crusaders. They were just, yeah, that was a great game to watch. I mean, that was like, it's one of those where it's like what you expect from a title defense team, really, just going into any game. But then also the team who lost in the final just stepped it up another level. I thought with the Chiefs, like the tries they scored in the game was like brilliance. Like the one from where McKenzie kind of broke the line, passed it towards Stevenson, found the open pass towards Xavier Rowe, and just scored underneath the post. Like it's like the simple things, but they just executed it like perfectly. So yeah, the Chiefs overall just felt were great. Again, the Crusaders, they lacked how do I say it nicely? That they weren't as clinical as they normally are. That's just what I would say. So it's one of those like where that definitely let them down, and that's what kind of allowed the Chiefs to kind of come back into it. Because Crusaders actually came back into the game, which was actually really impressive by them in the second half. But the Chiefs obviously got that win, and yeah, it's a big win for them because it just puts a statement for the rest of the competition now and all that. So yeah, I mean, like, what was your take on that? Like, did you think like the Chiefs were just the better team throughout the whole game, or did you think it was really the kind of an up and down kind of game, and either team could have won?
Well, during this game, I was, of course, at that wedding that I spoke of last week, and I discovered chocolate fish again, which was absolutely fantastic. They had them all laid out on the table, but I was keeping an eye.
Yeah, the whole selection.
Yep. Yeah, it was great. You could just take them in a little cup, and then we'd just sneak our cup back in, and then you'd do it again. But I was keeping an eye on the score. I haven't actually seen any of the highlights of these games other than the Blues versus Fijian draw. I just want to clarify that now. The reason for that is I want to watch the games in their entirety so that I can see how it actually played out rather than just the highlights package. So I'm a bit behind, but hopefully I'm forgiven due to the hours that we've been awake doing the other games that have been taking place. But on paper, of course, the Crusaders seemed like they were going to be maybe a little bit less attacking than what they had been in past seasons because there were new players that needed to find their feet in that Crusaders team. But overall, like it seemed to be every time the Chiefs thought that they were starting to get away, the Crusaders like, no, hang on. Like just let us bring this back a little bit, make it a bit more entertaining for those final moments. But I mean, it will give the Chiefs confidence. They were the side that looked like they were the better on paper, and they turned out to be the better in the actual match. So, yeah, I think that the Chiefs at the moment, looking at their backline, are going to be all right this season.
Yeah, I think they got some good talent in there. And I was actually impressed. I mean, again, you'll see it through the game when you watch it. But, like, I was really impressed, actually, by Rihanna, who was going at the number 10 spot for the Crusaders. Because, again, that's a position where they don't have a lot of cover there now because, Malonga's obviously left. You don't have Alexa Fergusberg because he's injured up until April. The replacement for Fergusberg, Lee Halfpenny, is obviously out as well. So it's like they have to go to the next kind of guy, which is the academy. Well, someone they brought obviously from NPC and has actually played really well in his first game for the Crusaders. So I just thought it's a good sign of things going forward, and I think he'll be able to kind of help them out in that position. But yeah, again, like I said, just the Chiefs, good win for them, and obviously just it makes a statement for the first round. But again, moving on, like we'll go quickly through some of the games here. I mean, Brumbies, like Rebels, again, just one of those games where the Brumbies just really just outclassed the Rebels in a lot of the departments, like Corey Toole getting 2 tries of his own, really just using his pace of his, and just, yeah, he was good throughout the game. But again, the Rebels had so many missed opportunities in this game where, I mean it, like where I think they had at least like 7 chances in this game, like where they could have scored a try. But there's one thing that them down. It was like a knock on, or if it was like just a silly penalty they gave away, or just anything like that. Because it was a running game throughout the whole game for both sides. So the Rebels should have had at least 1 try in this. But yeah, just it's one that they'll definitely look back at and be like, wow, we could have got more from this, or at least like a losing bonus point, or just something like, that's something that you can get from it. But yeah,
How
I
did
mean,
they
like,
look as a team when it came to their chemistry? Did they look like even though they had so many new players, were they
they
slightly
look good. They looked
cohesive?
really
Like,
good. Like
I
the
feel like this has
Rebels,
become
like
a Q&A, but
yeah, no, but
curious.
exactly. Look, like the Rebels actually looked pretty good for this one. It's just one of those where the Brumbies, just as a team, they have that cohesion already nailed, and it's just if you don't have that for the back, then it's going to be very hard to beat someone like that. And again, obviously for the Rebels, like you said, they have a lot of new players in the mix, but I thought a lot of them kind of did well throughout the game. I thought Philippe Dangaru played at the number 13 spot, which is not really where he normally has played in the past when he's played for the Reds, because he's normally seen as a winger, but he played good in that position, and I thought Kellaway had a good game. I thought Lachlan Sakai Loto, now back in Super Rugby, he looked good. Like he's someone who I kind of in a weird way, I kind of wish he was in the Wallaby squad, because he's just someone who I just think is so reliable. He's just tall. He's a force to be reckoned with, and I would have had him really over like someone like Richie Arnold in a way. I know that he's just a good, solid player. So I'm happy that they have someone like him in that squad. But then yeah, Talanoa Tupou, I believe, came off the bench, but he had a bit of unfortunately, he kind of he hurt his hand a bit. It's like the curse of Talanoa Tupou. As soon as he comes on for a game, like after a long injury spell, he does something to his. I mean, I don't think it was a big one, because I think he stayed onto the field for most of it. But yeah, again, it was just a good game. I mean, it wasn't the best of games to watch, but it's one of those where it's obviously a good indication to see where these both sides may go for the future. But again, the last one of the Friday ones was Hurricanes versus Force. This is just more of this was the reckoning, really, I think, out of all the games, where the Hurricanes just blew the Force away, like 44 points to 14. Like they really just, like, the first half, you could say, was pretty competitive, you could say, from both sides. Like the Force kind of gave it their own, but the Hurricanes just ran away with it in the second half. And it's just one of those where players like, I mean, the Hollow, you had like Raisi, you had Cam Morgan coming off the bench, who did pretty well. You had gosh, what's his name? Brett Cameron to the 10. I thought it was pretty good, actually, in terms of his playmaking. So, and even like Peter Lackey getting a try for himself, and Asafo Moore. Like a lot of these players stood out. So it's a good sign for the Hurricanes. And again, there's a lot to be worked on, I'd say, from the Western Force. I kind of expected more from them, I'd say, in this game. But yeah,
they're probably a little bit similar to the Rebels, aren't they? They had Nick White at 9.
Yeah.
New combination 9-10, and then many new players as well. So they probably didn't quite gel as well as the Rebels, I would say. But I did get to see kind of like 5 minutes of the game, and that 5 minutes was probably their best 5 minutes. They actually looked all right to me, but other than that, it sounds like they didn't really perform.
Yeah, like, well, what the comparison I made actually on my stream was like where I said, like, well actually, when I looked back at it on the Blues Fiji Endurance stream I said that the Rebels actually looked like a better team, even though they scored no point. Like, they didn't get a try against the Brumbies, whereas the Western Force scored, like, I think, like 2 tries, but they didn't really look good against the Hurricanes. But so it's one of those, like, where it's, I guess it obviously comes down towards the opponent you're facing as well. But yeah, it's we'll see what happens, obviously, moving forward. But again, moving on towards Blues versus Fiji Endura, which you did see. So I'll get your take on this. Like, get your seat up here. Like, but yeah, like, what was your kind of take on that game?
Well, it did go relatively one-sided, unfortunately, which I think a lot of people wanted to see this game be a bit closer.
Yeah.
The draw, though, like, when you really break it down, the fact that they had 3 new backs, a new fly half, a new fullback, a new winger, it was always going to be a little bit more one-sided compared to, I guess, what everyone hoped. But the Blues, Zahn Sullivan, I know that there were talks of who's going to be that 15 for the ABs.
He's awesome.
He looks like he's going to be a very good option. I've seen him for a couple seasons, of course, but like that 50-22 that he managed to get, and just his ability to read the play.
Perfect. Literally perfect kick. Like, I keep saying this. I think he's someone who, like, again, with Scott Robinson, obviously, you have to remember, guys, that, like, Will Jordan also has been playing at number 14 under Ian Foster. But now with Scott Robinson in charge, a lot of people will expect Will Jordan to come into that 15 spot when he gets available, because, again, he's injured for a long time throughout the season. So there's the opportunity, which I'm not sure they'll do it, but I would love to see Zahn Sullivan get that 15 spot if possible, maybe against the England games that they have early on, or even that Fiji game they're playing in San Diego. But I know that like I actually kind of see Zonton as like the backup in that 15 position. I know that's a harsh thing to say, but I just see he's such a good player, like where he can also play 10 as well. So he can play 10 or 15, and you can, if you want to, you can even put him as a winger if you really wanted him to cover those positions. I know that's not where he normally plays, but it's just he's very versatile in that sense. So yeah, I was really impressed by him. I mean, even Hoskins Tutu, I thought a good game as well. I mean, that one try he scored, which was like he had a gimme try, which was like the ball went all over the place, and he's like, I'll just pick it up and just place it down. He's like, okay, like, but yeah, just Fiji Dura, like you said, just they had a lot of players out, obviously, going into this game, so you can't really fault them, obviously, for this one, I think, because Caleb Munns, I'm actually maybe you know more than me in this front. Do you know when he's going to return? Like, is it a long injury or?
I think he's still a couple months away at this stage, but it is a big shame because, of course, although to be fair, I didn't think that Armstrong.
No, he looked good.
Armstrong looked good. He actually went all right.
He went all right. But we just know the level.
He doesn't have the months factor, does he?
Exactly. Like you were saying with those kind of back three as well. They just didn't have their kind of starting back three. I mean, George CSC, like just wasn't there, the 15 spot. And you had Ratu Mala, I thought was pretty good. I think in the 11 spot. I'm trying to think who else. They had Momo, who I've never seen actually play for the Fijian Dur, but he looked pretty good actually in that 14 position. So they have some good options there. But again, Masi looked pretty good, I'd say, throughout this game, even Volta. But yeah, there's a long way to go for them. I know that they're playing, I believe, Mono Pacifica next round, so that'll be a good matchup, I think. But anyway, we'll move on that from that game, and we'll go on towards Mono Pacifica's game against the Highlanders. And that was a game which I did not see coming. I honestly, I think going into this, I actually said the Highlanders would like cruise past them, but no. Mono Pacifica was there to actually win the game, and they almost did it. They like if you look at the whole game, that's the one where. I know you haven't seen it, but that's the one which, in my opinion, was probably the best game of the week. If I had to actually say was the best game of the week, that's the one I would say. And it's not the one you would normally think of, but it was just a great game overall because Mono Pacifico just brought it. They really kind of came off the back, getting some points early on the doors. Highlanders came into it as well. I mean, in that game as well, there's probably the try of the round, which Sam Gilbert finished off. So. There's a lot of good plays in that game, which I highly advise to kind of watch that one back, and I'm actually going to watch the highlights back as well myself because that's just a good game. But yeah, there's a lot of good plays that stood out. Sam Gilbert, who I've already mentioned, Flafa Kataba getting a few try assists in there. You had gosh, I'm trying to think who else. Tabata Nawai. He was alright. I mean, he didn't do as much as I wanted him to do, but he got a try. He made it kind of somewhat of an impact. I mean. I'm trying to think of anyone else for the Highlanders before I move on to Mono Pacifica because there's so many players I want to mention for them. Highlanders centers wise, I mean, 10. I mean, Reece Patrol looked pretty good actually at that 10 position, and I would probably say, I'd say Hugh Redton looked pretty good. I said the Highlanders, but I mean, for the Mono Pacifica, I mean, the one player just you have to say off the back is Julian Sevilla. A great game for him, like for his debut, obviously game for Mono Pacifica. He was like the battering around the bus we all know he is, and he gained so many meters from Mono Pacifica in those crucial positions and turned over the ball in several moments as well. So he made key plays in this game for them. You had Miracle Fanny, who I thought was impressive throughout, just in terms of his ball carrying and all that. William Havili, I thought had a very impressive game, probably the best 10 actually compared to Reece Patchell. I thought he was actually better in that game. You had Nigel Awong, who had a good game as well in that wing spot. So there were so many good players, I thought, for Mono Pacifico. And this is it's going to be a really exciting game because I actually, normally going into the next round against Fiji and Dura, I'd actually say Fiji will win that off the back. But looking at this game, I was like, ooh, I actually think Mono could actually do it. So I'd be very excited if you're a Mono Pacifico fan. But yeah, with the Highlanders, of course, they played their hearts out and obviously got that bonus point win at the end of the day. But moving on towards the final one, which was Reds versus Waratahs. Again, the Reds won this by 40 points to 22. This is the only game where, unfortunately, I couldn't watch the whole one. I only watched I think 60% of it because I had to go out for dinner. But I know that the Reds were kind of it was a good first half for sure because both teams it was like just whenever these two sides play, like I said in the preview, like it's a try to that team, a try to that team, it just goes back and forth, and that's kind of what we saw in this game. And I think it was like 21 points to like 18 or 17 at halftime. It was like someone like that. So it was a very competitive first half. Again, in the second half, that's kind of where the Reds kind of ran away with it. Tim McDermott, I thought, had a pretty impressive game. Same with, I'd say, Hunter Basami looked really good in this one. You had, I'm trying to think who else. You had Fraser McRae, who, normally just does his bits. Matt Fazer, I thought he was pretty good at the hooker spot. And then for the Waratahs, you had Mark Narquantawasi just doing what he does really. You had Parisi, who's a solid player as well. I'm trying to think. There was one player who was really Dylan Peach. That's it. Dylan Peach had a really good game for the Waratahs. But besides that, just a really impressive win, I'd say, for the Reds. And just to, by the way, I'm not sure if you also saw this, but he didn't actually play in the Waratahs game. But Laikai Folketi had a very bad injury. I'm not sure if you've seen, like where he did something to his neck, or like he had to go to the. It was a really bad injury. Like I think they'd had like in preseason, in training leading up to the game, which he wasn't going to be available for. But he had like a very, very severe injury to himself, and fortunately they announced it on the Waratahs social media that he should be okay, but he's going to need some time to recover now. So. Because it's the way they phrased it. Like I don't want to get it up now, but it seemed like it could be like a career-ending injury. I'm happy that it wasn't. He's okay because he's a good player. So it's good to see that not being more came from that. But yeah. Anyway, that is now done with Super Rugby. Again, just to let you guys know in terms of the predictions we made from last week. You're up. You got 6 out of 6, if I'm not mistaken. So. 100% record for you. I had 5 out of 6 because I did say, the Rebels could beat the Brumbies. So that's just my bad, I guess. But anyway, so that's the scores for now. Again, let us know obviously what you guys predicted below. But again, the final one, Vancouver Sevens. It's literally just ended as we're filming this now, and yeah, Argentina coming victorious. I mean, it's kind of it's the expected winner. I think at the end of the day, I mean they've won in Vancouver 3 times in a row, if I'm not mistaken. But like what was your take on the whole tournament itself, and just I guess all the matches we just saw?
Well, we had quite a few upsets along the way in this Vancouver Sevens competition. South Africa not making it to the quarterfinals, I think, was probably one of the biggest.
I could have. Sorry to cut you off. I was so bad because we beat New Zealand. I was like, okay, good. That's a very good start. Then we lose the Great Britain. I'm like, oh, we've screwed ourselves already because I know that we're going to lose the island. I was like, I could just see it coming. We lost the island. I was like, oh, why do you do this to yourself? So, yeah, that was a tough one to take.
Quite a statement win, though, for the 9th place final over the Australians. I think they won that game by about 30 points, somewhere around there, or 24-7, I think it was actually, a little bit lower. So they do finish 9th, but, yeah, I mean, Fiji getting knocked out of the quarters in their game up against New Zealand. We got to see Samoa make it to the quarters, which was probably a pleasant surprise, but they didn't really get that job done up against Argentina. So Argentina actually knocked Samoa, Fiji, because they beat them in the group stage, which meant that they played New Zealand and also New Zealand out of this competition.
It's crazy.
So at the moment, the Pacific Islands, they've got to get one back on Argentina. They've got to do it soon because now Los Pumas have the longest winning streak ever in Argentine Sevens history. They broke the record from 2004. So they're on a really good run, winning 15 consecutive matches and just looking really good while doing it. Although you'll be happy to know one of the only teams to beat them this year was South Africa. So
exactly.
There you go.
But it's just one of those games where, again, like you said, there was a lot of upsets, but again, a lot of teams I thought that did step up. I mean, the one I just have to say is Great Britain. I thought they had a really good tournament because I think we both didn't expect them to even get out of the group. So for them to do, I think they got second out of the group, which is really impressive, or at least first. I actually can't remember. Did they get first or second in the group?
I think they were second in the end. I think New Zealand's points differential
that's
might
probably
have
helped
them out.
But still impressive by them. Again, I thought Canada had some decent displays, I'd say, throughout the kind of sevens. I mean, the one team I thought that I did say would do well was France. I mean, they had a very impressive sevens in my opinion. I mean, they wiped the floor against Samoa. Like that game, I was like, oh my gosh, because you could obviously recall back the one before that Samoa beat Australia. Was it Australia or was it? Am I going blank here?
Yeah.
It was Australia where they had a really good win over them. And I was like, wow, okay, Samoa's going to back in this way. And then the following game, you just see France demolish them. I'm like, okay, never mind. I was like, so it was kind of a topsy-turvy moment for them. But Dupont, again, I think overall in the comp, he had like, I believe 3 tries to his name. So he's done well on that front. Obviously got that winner against Ireland in the quarterfinal. But yeah, I think really it's just Great Britain, France, I'd say, who did I say? I just mentioned them.
I think that the USA actually did very well throughout this competition. Yeah. And I'll be honest, after the way that they played up against Great Britain in their quarterfinal, I actually thought they were going to end the Argentine winning streak. I thought going into that game, there's a little bit of a chance, and then they conceded 2 quick tries, and I was like, oh, well, it was nice having that thought. But, I mean, bringing it back to 35-19, not terrible, because we know how strong Argentina can be. Ask New Zealand in that final, 36 points to 12. 12 all at halftime. Argentina went out in the second and went, okay, now we go to 100%. And then they just kept on scoring tries.
Yeah, it was just tries for fun, really, at the end of the day. So, yeah, they really did well in that final. And and also just a good shout out, obviously, towards the women's side of the game as well. I thought there were some good wins in there, like New Zealand winning that one, which is a good one for them because normally you would see Australia doing well, kind of, because they're really just top of the leaderboard by a good margin now, but they got beaten by France, if I'm not mistaken, so that's a good one. I know Canada finished third, so obviously good for the, I guess, home crown in that one. And it was a good tournament. I just think overall, a lot of these teams that they all stepped up and delivered. And again, obviously, we now have the LA Sevens, which is this week now, as we're filming, it's going to be this week. So, gosh, another Sevens tournament. It's crazy. And then, of course, the one after is Hong Kong Sevens, and I'll be there live. So that'll be a fantastic tournament to go to. But and hopefully South Africa can – I mean, they're not going to do it because their form has just been all over the place. But we've never won in Hong Kong. I keep saying this, but we've never won in Hong Kong. And I'd love it if they would be able to win it in the Hong Kong Stadium because it's the last time – but I'm not even sure you know this, but it's the last time the Hong Kong Sevens is going to be hosted at the Hong Kong Stadium, because they're moving towards a newly built stadium, which is called the Kai Tak Stadium, following on, and it's a bigger stadium, 50,000 seats. It kind of reminds me, like, if you go online, you can also guys search this up, but like the inside of it kind of looks, in my opinion, as like the Highlanders Stadium. Like it's like you have that kind of feel to it, where it's kind of an indoor kind of thing, but again, it's not like the Highlanders where it's like the inside. It's actually like how do I describe it? It's a circle stadium in a way, but inside of it, it's like the Highlanders, like exactly what you have up there. So it's a cool. I think it's a cool stadium to go to. But yeah, no, that's kind of it really. I mean, is there anything else you want to kind of discuss in terms of the rugby standpoint?
Well, we've got so much rugby on in the near future, of course, but hopefully, overall, we keep on getting those close games. I feel like the Crusaders versus Chiefs, alongside that match between the Highlanders and Moana Pacifica, they seem to be the two that people have said were the best games of the round. So hopefully Super Rugby can match that for this weekend. We've got a couple derbies that are taking place, like you mentioned, the Moana Pacifica Fijian draw game.
There's some good games this week.
Yeah, like hopefully it just all goes well.
There's Highlanders Blues. There's like Hurricanes Reds, which is always a good game. Chiefs Brumbies. I mean, there's some good games in there.
Slight elephant in the room. It's in Melbourne, so why have they done that again?
That's the thing. Is it kind of like, so this is actually, in a weird way, I'm kind of happy it's in Melbourne, because the Highlanders, like, I would not want to. I wouldn't be, as a Blues fan, I wouldn't be as confident going away now facing them in Dunedin. But of course, now it's in Melbourne, it's a kind of, just scrap that and just be like, okay, it's kind of a 50-50 in terms of how I may go.
So many fans are in attendance for each side, 50-50.
Exactly. It'll be good for Melbourne, by the way, as well, because obviously we all know, the Melbourne Rebels is in a tough situation at the moment, and it'll be good to kind of just get the community all behind, kind of the whole rugby community to kind of support Melbourne, and just kind of go out there, have a good kind of, like a 2-day event, I believe, and just kind of just kind of watch all these games all in action. So yeah, just really, if you guys obviously they're going live, obviously just I definitely advise just to go and just have some fun and just support the event really. But yeah, anyway, we'll leave it there. Again, hope you guys obviously enjoyed this this podcast, this episode. I mean, make sure obviously to like the video, guys. Would greatly appreciate if you guys can like the video, subscribe to our channel, guys, if you haven't already, and definitely leave a comment below letting us know what was your match of the week. Also, maybe the players that you believe maybe stood out. But anyway, guys, we'll leave it there. Catch you guys next time, and yeah, see ya.